Thanks for joining me on episode 1053 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Carolina Duarte. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to find your main purpose in life and pursue it is key. One way to be inspired to do this is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend Scott Matter.
I didn't plan on that because I wasn't planning on not feeling well. But then whenever it did happen, I was able to adjust the plan and be deliberate about that and reflect on that and not beat myself up for the fact that there were some things that I didn't get done because it's okay. It was a deliberate choice to adjust the plan.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about impacting the world by stewarding your time, I talk with you about paying attention to how you use your time. I talk about why attention is the real fundamental of the economy of time, both personally and on a larger scale. And I also share why paying attention to time is also something we fail to actually do.
As we talk about stewarding your time, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without just taking too long? Turns out you can't. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show just that quick. If you enjoy the show when you are ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon.
The truth is, most of us have no real clue where our time goes. Think about it. We say that in common experience. We say that to each other. We say, I just don't know where the time went. I don't know what I did today. Now, if you have a teenager at home and you ask them what they did at school, you're always going to get that answer, I don't know, or nothing. But I'm talking even beyond that. I'm talking about all of us, even as adults, even somebody who's doing things well, often is unaware of where they actually spend their time. And the truth is, the reason is because most of us don't pay attention to that. We don't have any way of logging or paying attention to or recording both what we planned to do and what we actually did and how long it took. That's one of the reasons we're so bad at estimating time. If you ask somebody how long it's been, and then ask them to tell you when 30 minutes have passed, and they don't have access to a watch or a clock, most people are really bad at that. And as well, whenever you ask someone to estimate how long a particular task will take, even a task that they've done repeatedly, often people are really bad at estimating that. We tend to underestimate the amount of time it actually takes us to do even routine tasks. The reason why is because attention is part of the fundamental economy of time, both for us personally and as a larger society or culture, or however you want to slice it and dice it, business, workplace, church, volunteer group, whatever it is. Because the truth is, what we pay attention to is what we see as important. And what we choose to not pay attention to often gets overlooked and pushed to the side. How we pay attention to things, our focus, is the real economy of time. It's one of the reasons I hate the idea of time management, and I prefer to think of it as energy or focus or priority management. Because the truth is, time is just what we have. It's the resource. But what we're actually managing is ourself, our attention to things, our focus on things, our priorities, and whether or not those focus and attention is aligned with our priorities. And then we're also paying attention to how we use that. We fail to actually do it because we have no real good system for that. One of the reasons that I have a time log that I provide to folks that are enrolled in my course, Productivity for Your Passion, is because it has a way of first planning what you want to do with your time. What do you actually want to pay attention to this week, this month, tomorrow? And then it has a way of capturing what actually happened. And then by reviewing that over time, you begin to slowly get a better idea of where your time is really going. And by doing that, you begin to recognize, are you actually spending your time the way you want to? Are you actually focusing your time on the things that are most important to you? Or are you spending a lot of time doing other activities, maybe activities that aren't that important? That's the first step to actually aligning your time and your attention and your focus with your passions and your values and the outcomes you want. It then requires the discipline to do that day in and day out and do that for a period of time. I actually still do this, and I started doing this several years ago because I want to know where it's really going. I have weeks like last week where I did have a lot of wasted time. Not really wasted, but time that didn't go towards what I planned to do with my time, that didn't really move me in the direction that I wanted to go. And then when I do my weekly review and I look back and I see that, I can think about what happened. What went right? What went wrong? What do I want to change? How do I want to do something different next week so that it's better than last week? I also can reflect and go, a couple of those days I wasn't feeling 100% and I just took some time to rest and recover. And that's not a bad thing. I didn't plan on that because I wasn't planning on not feeling well. But then whenever it did happen, I was able to adjust the plan and be deliberate about that and reflect on that and not beat myself up for the fact that there were some things that I didn't get done, because it's okay. It was a deliberate choice to adjust the plan. By paying attention to it, I was able to act on it and not feel guilty about making changes. Now, even within that, there were still some things that I wanted to get done that I could have gotten done on the days that I felt better, but I didn't. And part of that was, once I'd had those couple of days where I didn't get a lot done, it was easy to let that inertia carry on. And so this weekend, I had to do a reset and a refocus and say, wait a minute, get back on the horse, get back started, do what you need to do, and knock out some things next week. And I was able to plan for that and put the buffers in place so that I can now hopefully achieve that. And usually that's exactly what happens. Because even if you're somebody who's very productive and very focused and has already done this work, you're still going to have ebbs and flows in your attention and your focus and your time. And being aware of those changes and that flux that happens in reality is part of learning to really pay attention to your time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of time, be sure to sign up for our Stewardship of Time Tips series by going to inspiredstewardship.com/time or texting 44222 time tips, and that'll get you our best tips on stewarding your time. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.